Chris Hadfield, welcome to 7:30.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Did seeing the world from space make you think differently about it?
It probably did. It's hard to tell within yourself, especially when you stay on orbit for months and months, because it's gradual. It shifts your perspective a little bit. But I think in retrospect, it definitely gave me more of a collective feel about the world, almost an intimacy with the whole planet, and a real sense that we're all in this together.
And you obviously had a desire to share that.
You know, I was put there on behalf of a lot of people, and I watched some of the early astronauts share the experience, and it had a real impact on the world. It inspired so many people. To be asked to kind of step out on the very edge of our capability and do something, I think gives you also a responsibility and an obligation to share that experience, so as many people can maybe change their own decisions and decide what they're going to do as a result. Maybe get a little different perspective on the world themselves.
Is it hard to describe some of the feelings? Because for me, that's what I want to know. What did it feel like to walk in space? What does it feel like to see the Earth from space?
You would love the experience of walking in space. I've been outside the spaceship twice for a total of about 15 hours, which is 10 times around the world, out alone in the universe. And it's maybe the difference between sitting in your mother's lap and looking at something, or maybe sitting inside a building and looking outside, and hanging on the outside of a cliff. That difference of perspective, even though you're not that far physically away, you suddenly are part of the three-dimensionality of it, and you look back at where you came from. And to see the world as a ball, as an amazing blue, improbable, gorgeous spinning ball next to you, and you are going through the universe with it. That's a really new perspective for us, and one that I really did try and let other people see through my eyes.
And seeing the world from that distance, did it seem fragile or miraculous?
The world is tough. You know, the world has withstood huge asteroid impacts and volcanic eruptions and electromagnetic pulses. The world's been here a long time. But at the same time, it does look miraculous. It looks so just improbable that it can be there at all. And yet it's almost like looking at an exquisite jewel. Like, how can that be so beautiful and multifaceted? And yet it's there, and it's tough, and it's strong, almost just begging to be appreciated.
Take us back for a moment to when you first thought that you wanted to be an astronaut.
I'd actually had the improbable background of deciding to be an astronaut when I was a kid. I watched the first two human beings walk on the moon, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, the summer I turned 10. And I decided that night. And it wasn't just watching them on television. It was going outside afterwards and looking up at the moon and seeing, trying to link what I'd seen on the television now with looking at the moon itself. And making the conscious decision at that point that I'm going to grow up to be something. You know, why don't I grow up to be that? And amazingly enough, I've had a chance since then to fly in space 3 times and even to command a spaceship.
I watched that too on the other side of the Earth from you. I never grew up to be an astronaut. Did you think of that moment when you first took your first space flight?
Sitting in the rocket ship on the launch pad, it takes a while to get strapped in, but then after you're strapped in and ensconced in your seat, there's a couple hours before you've got all the hatches closed and the pressure checks and communication checks. So it's almost as if someone gave you time for reflection and introspection. And yes, I thought about those things. I thought about the very unlikely path that had gotten me there, all the people that that had taught me things, but looking right back to the fundamental inspiration that I had. And it sort of puts a little smile on your face to think that that little 9-year-old boy is right there riding along with you, waiting for the big engines to light and get this thing going.
And when the big engines light and you know that the first 10 minutes is the most dangerous thing you're ever going to do you think about the possibility of death then, or just the possibility of what lies ahead of you?
You have a huge amount of influence in your own existence for those first 10 minutes. There's an astronaut expression that there is no problem so bad that you can't make it worse. And so the focus is very much not on the fact that there's some uncontrollable risk, but the fact that you have to do the things right in order to get your rocket ship to space. We're not just riding along, we're pilots of that thing. And so the focus, you have to have accepted the risk years in advance, and your focus is on doing everything right to help guide that ship up through the atmosphere and into orbit. And that's what you're focused on. And it's like the tip of a huge pyramid of preparation. It's an amazingly intense 9 minutes of your life, and it takes you to a place that's just almost unimaginable.
As you say, the tip of a huge pyramid of preparation. There are few professions where you spend most of your life in training and a very brief period of your life actually doing the job that you were trained for. You spent 146 nights or days above the Earth. What was it like, though, the first time that you actually got into outer space?
The ride up is rugged and punishing and high vibration and high acceleration, and the transition to being in space is instantaneous. It's as if someone just threw you off a cliff, and so your first reaction is almost to laugh because things start floating. The checklist floats in front of you. You pop your helmet off and it tumbles next to you. But the overwhelming urge of all the astronauts is to go look out the window and look back and see the world from a whole new vantage point. And you have to wipe the nose prints off the glass all the time in a spaceship because people are just trying to mentally soak up where they truly are and see what home truly looks like.
The International Space Station is a joint venture, and it's a joint venture with the Russians, among many, and the only way to get into space now is via a Russian spacecraft. Do you worry about the way that the world's turning with relations between Russia and the United States, that might be under threat?
Actually, it's sort of the other way around. The Americans can't fly the space station without the Russians, and the Russians can't fly it without the Americans. And there are 15 nations building the station together. And if you ever want to accomplish something at that level, it requires that type of international commitment. No Australia or Canada, none of our political cycles, if we just tried to go it alone, could ever keep the momentum to build something like that. And I think right now, in fact, the world needs symbols of success like the space station. And you can go outside here and watch the space station go over right across Australia. And to me, it's a terrific example in amongst all of the problems and the enmities and the bad short-term decisions that we make. I think it's really good to have an example of cooperation like Station. So I don't worry for Station at all. I think it's what we ought to be doing. It's what we're doing as an example of something that is right.
What has travelling to space taught us?
Oh, an endless list of things. It not only gives us tools, like something straightforward, GPS, or the fact that you and I can talk to each other effortlessly, or you can watch soccer being played on the other side of the planet. It teaches us about the Earth itself, to understand what truly is happening with the atmosphere and what's normal and what is the standard life cycle of a planet. And then the myriad of small things. When you challenge people to do something that is right on the edge of possible, they come up with inventions that they never would have otherwise, and the list is fairly endless. Everything from Nastran, which was the fundamental software that allowed us to build lighter, more capable vehicles, right through to a blood analysis machine that's the size of a toaster that we tested and proved up on the space station while I was up there. When you give people a quest and a challenge, it brings people together that otherwise would never talk to each other, and it's amazing to see the result. Now,
you're an engineer, a test pilot, an astronaut, a pretty decent musician. For the rest of us mere mortals, is there anything you're bad at?
I'm not a very good dancer.
There are very few people who are good dancers. Give us some more hope.
I try not to do things that I'm bad at, and I try and work hard at the things that I really love. And there's a lot of things in the world to continue to try and get better at, so I just focus on that.
Having seen the Earth from space and seen the universe beyond it, can it all be defined by science, or only by poetry, or perhaps even faith?
What we're doing in exploring the solar system is teaching us a lot, and it's technically really interesting, and it's important both politically and economically and technologically. But to me, the fact that so many people watched that music version of Space Oddity that I did.
I've left forevermore, and I'm floating in a most peculiar way.
To me, that really shows the importance, if you want to actually communicate, the importance of art. I mean, science, technology, engineering, math, they drive the economy, but we're people. We're not machines and washing machines and robots. We're humans. And to share the wonder and the experience of what's going on, that is expressed through art, through music and through writing and through poetry, and to try and get to the very essence of what's important. And we're at that stage of space exploration now where the space station allows us to start to do that.
And when you were there, did you get the sense that there was more perhaps than you could define with science?
Oh, always. You know, no matter how elegant mathematics is, it will never be able to describe the complexity of life or the origins of it. That's the beauty of it. You know, trying to understand the wonders of it all. Explain a rainbow to somebody or explain a sunrise to somebody, even as mechanical and methodical and scientific as you get, the actual event itself will always supersede it.
And what do you see when you look at the night sky now?
It makes me smile. I have a familiarity. Maybe someone who's climbed the Matterhorn, when they walk around and look up at the Matterhorn, they somehow try and link up in their mind the normal two-dimensional existence and the fact that they've stood on the top. And when I stand outside and watch the space station go over, or any of the satellites, it's not even a wistfulness. It's just an incredible privilege to have been one of the first to leave the planet and to see the world that way, and to start understanding how we can go even further. I feel a great sense of luck and delight in looking up.
So what's next for you? You've come down from a pretty big peak.
I don't think I've come down. It's more like something that I got to do that allows me to be doing what I'm doing right now. It's almost like continuing to build a platform of experience that allows me to maybe understand things a little bit better. And I tried to write it in a book that to help see what's useful out of the experience. And I'm teaching at university, and so there's just, I want to go back to school, and there's a lot of songs to write. I don't know, there's an endless list of things still coming down.
Finally, there's one question that all of us want answered. Is there life out there?
Within the last 10 years, we have started to see planets around other stars. And we've seen so many of them that now we can actually figure out how many planets there are. And in our galaxy alone, our best guess is there is about 20 billion Earth-like planets in our galaxy. And we think there are about 200 billion galaxies. So to think we're the only life in the universe is just sort of a myopic arrogance. But to think that life is traveling all the way through the universe and whizzing around the world and sneaking around and hiding and not revealing themselves, that we're so vastly important, that's just another form of arrogance, I think. I'm sure there's life out there. Statistically, there has to be. But our job is to try and find it.
Chris Hadfield, thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. Nice to join you.